Welcome to our video on the production management features and task management features that are built into our enterprise cultivation suite. We're going to go through individual plant tracking, individual and batch plant logistics, task management, user creation, and the collaboration features that are built into this platform. So first off, we'll review some of the features that are built into the map. You can see here that we have these colored circles that are spread throughout this facility. These are representative of the individual plants that we're tracking in this demo. If I go ahead and click on the layers icon on the right, you can select the different sensor types, but we're not going to go through that in this video, as well as the different zone types. So zoning is one of the key ways that we're able to do a lot of the automation we do a lot of the task automation that we're doing, and the plant tracking. So let's go ahead and hide some of these. And now we're going to be seeing just the bench zones that we've made for this demo. And these can be tray zones. It's really however you like to organize your cultivation, vertical racks, whatever you like. And then we can also see, if I click this plant placeholders checkbox, all the possible plant locations that we've mapped in this cultivation facility. Now, we do have some locations in the processing rooms that do not have individual plant tracking. In those processing rooms, plants usually at those points have been harvested. They've been potentially trimmed together into batch lots. And so for these rooms, we're not individually showing them. But we can move plants in there, as we'll show later. So easy to navigate the map, just like Google Maps, click and drag around. You can go ahead and click on any individual circle, and it'll pop up that individual plant's ID. And if you're in a metric state, that will be your metric plant's ID, the zone it's in, the batch it's a part of, and its current status. So we'll go ahead and move this batch. Let's say that I've gone and completed the movement into Veg 1B. I'll go ahead and click this batch here. And we can see the tasks have already been scheduled for the movement dates, and we're actually a little bit overdue with this task here to move it into Veg 1. I'm going to go ahead and change the assignee to me, and then complete that task. And now it's important to notice the confirmation pop-up. This is for the auditability for that audit trail. Do not complete the task if it has not been done. The second check is to really ensure that the task was indeed completed. So now we're tracking the task, when it was completed and by whom, and that it was now moved into Veg 1 as per its production schedule. These production schedules are pre-generated by the batch recipes. Recipes is our way of thinking about the ingredients, the things that go into growing a batch of plants. So now if I go back to the map, we're going to see that this batch of Girl Scout cookies is now in that veg zone. And we can see here that we've, just by completing that task and clicking that button, we've moved the batch into its next zone. We have completed the audit trail for that. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that is done with just that simple checkbox. We're also now locating the plant here in this bench, and we're saying, okay, it's nearest these sensors. So as it's moving through the grow facility, through its life cycle, by tracking every individual plant, we're able to link it to the sensors in that zone and give you that really good automatic historical data collection for every individual plant that you're growing in your facility. Now I'm going to go ahead and jump over to show you some of the overview tools. So these are good for operational visibility and just navigating the batches that are currently being grown or planned in your facility. So on this page, the active batches page, we have the list of the strains being cultivated, the list of the batches being cultivated at this current time in the demo. We have below it, we have a nice little Gantt view and timeline view of every batch that's being grown, where it is in its current stage life cycle, when it needs to move into its next zone, and really to give you a nice overview of what's being done and what's coming up in your facility after today and what's been done in the past. So, for example, this batch of Girl Scout cookies here that we just moved was a little bit overdue. So you can see the clone period is largely extended. Now, these would probably be some pretty big plants at this point, so we could probably skip the veg stage anyway. But in any case, we won't get into that. What I will say is that we can go ahead and click into the batch and make some notes. We can just basically make any notes related to the batch. Obviously, this wouldn't be the regular kind of use. Now, we can also upload photos. You can do individual plant notes. Really, you can catalog and do your research in this platform. I'm going to just jump back here, though, to the active batches page to give you more of an in-depth overview. So we can also organize by the batches by zone, by the plant count, by when the next batch process is coming. But the thing I wanted to show you, which is more in line with regular day-to-day production, is let's say that you've completed, it's end of the afternoon, you've completed moving several batches into their next zones, right? And so if I sort by next batch process, and let's say that these three were done today, even though they're not necessarily due for today, let's just say, for example, right? I can go ahead and click these three tasks here, multi-select them, and then a green arrow appears above. And what the green arrow is going to do is it's going to assume that you've done the next task for each of these batches. But don't worry, if you accidentally clicked a batch, you'll see it's going to check. So confirm, did you plant batch number 1 cookies in dry 1? Was that done? I'm going to say, okay, yes, it was done. Confirm, did you move orange kush into veg 1? I'm going to say, yes, it was indeed moved there. And did you plant batch 1 train wreck into dry 1? I'm going to say, no, whoops, that wasn't ready to go. And so there we go. Now we have the update going on. And now those batches are going to be reflected in those new zones. As you can see. Now we also have a room view. And this little demo only has 1 clone zone and 1 veg zone. So all the batches are pretty much moving through those at any given time. But in the flower rooms, you can see more clearly kind of what's going on, what's going to be coming into that room at a given time. So this batch of Girl Scout cookies is due to come into flower 1 on September 1st. And again, there's no need to recreate all the different steps for every single batch that you're making. And this is a lot of the time-saving features that we've built into recipes and this batch automation, this workflow automation process. So I'll go ahead and jump over to recipes next. And you can see here we have some variety-specific recipes, some duration-based recipes. So there's really any number of ways that you can direct your recipes and your production schedules. Okay, with our recipe list here, we're really trying to tease out what the best ways of growing every different cultivar may be. And so the ability to continuously iterate a recipe, to experiment and really have side-by-side comparisons for what's working for a particular variety, and that repeatability to get that consistency and quality is what we've been going for. So I'll go ahead and create a new recipe here. We'll call this sample production schedule. And we're going to go through and create all the high-level movements of the batch first. So we're going to start in the clone zone for 12 days. Then we're going to move into veg for 21 days, followed by flower room for, let's say, 59 days, followed by processing for our harvest and weighing and compliance work. And then we're going to go into dry for 7 days, followed by going back into processing to trim the buds off of the plants. Now they're going to go and be cured in bulk. We'll go cure for 21 days, followed by another processing where we'll be packaging up the cured buds into wholesale lots or retail lots. Then we're going to go back into storage. So we'll go into the vaults and be ready to pick up at any point for 2 weeks. Now you can see just like that, just a matter of seconds, we've created a high-level schedule for this batch. But what if you want to take it further? You want to be able to actually pre-program the tasks that should be accomplished for this batch while it's in those environments. We have a default list of tasks here, but of course you can also create generic tasks where you're defining custom tasks as well. So you can create any kind of tasks in this production management tool. For this example, I'm just going to use the inspect task. We'll do it 3 days after we've cloned the plants. And now you can see that clone task is scheduled for 3 days after it goes into that zone. We'll do another inspection 6 days later. And we will up pot the day of before we're going into veg. Now, after we go into veg, let's say we're going to defoliate 2 weeks in. And let's say we're going to inspect, or let's see. Let's say we're going to clean. We got to make sure we're cleaning in there. So the day of will clean. So the 0 denotes the day of the movement, so that when the batch gets into that zone. And then we're going to go into flour. Let's say we're also defoliating it again 7 days in. And so on and so forth. And so you can basically see that we can create, very sophisticated, very as sophisticated as you like, sets of SOPs while the plant is growing in these different zone types. And so no need to hit save or anything. Everything auto saves as you're doing it. So let's go ahead and make a batch with this schedule we just made. So I'll go to the active batches page. Create a new harvest batch, pick the variety we're growing. Let's say this is cookies, and we'll plant it on today. And we'll pick that recipe, that production schedule that we had just made. And you can see automatically we have those zones populated here in that order that we already created. And we're going to go ahead and pick of these zone types, which zones in the actual facility we're going to move this plant through. So the first is going to be, there's only one clone zone and one veg zone in this little demo, so we'll just have one option here. But on to the flower rooms, we have 4 to choose from. We'll say this is going to flower 2. In the processing, we only have 1 trim room. Dry, we have 2. We'll pick dry 1. Then we'll move back into trim, back to that processing zone, then into cure, and then to the vault for storage. Now on the right, you'll notice we have autofill as the default bench loading scheme. So every room has different benches or different trays. And by default, when you move a batch into a new zone, it's going to find the next available location and then just load the plants into that next available location sequentially. Now, some customers do like to define exactly which bench they want the batch to be going to. Sometimes one bench will always be growing the same batch, and that they have that consistency through that rigor. And so you can also pick the bench zones if you want to define a bench for it to go to. We have the arrow cloners sectioned out here in the clone zone as well, so you can be doing that kind of granularity when you're scheduling your batch movements. Down below, we have the start ID and end ID of the plant tags. So let's go ahead and make a 30 plant batch. We'll just go ahead and make up a metric tag here. And so in this example, it's sequential, but you can absolutely use a barcode scanner and scan in individual tags here if they're not sequential. So now we have this batch of cookies that's been created. It's running these sample production schedule that we just also created. And it's the second batch of cookies that we've grown in this demo. We can always add more plants here if, let's say, we didn't add the correct amount in the first place, and let's say we're merging 2. It's just the same entry field that you had previously. And down below, you can see all the individual plants listed, and I can let's show all of them. So we have 30 in this example. You'll notice on the right that the zone is currently pending and the status is currently pending because this batch has not had any tasks done with it. And that is the default state of any batch you make. So you can plan and make batches, and until you actually record the task completed, the initial task completed, it won't create the batch in the system to be tracked. So first thing we do is go ahead, because this task is due today, it's highlighted red, go ahead and click the green checkbox. And now I'm checking confirm, did you indeed move that? Did you indeed clone that plant, that batch? And so I'll say, okay, that was done. We can see that task has been completed by my user 25 seconds ago. And let's go ahead and look at the mapped dashboard now and check that this batch was indeed created, and we are now tracking it in its location with those sensors. So there is that second batch of cookies that's been planted. All right, now I'll go back into the batch. And as simple as that, you can see we've created we also have the tasks for this particular batch created beyond just the movement tasks. So we have inspect on this date and this date, uppod it, and of course now is a time to go through and assign it to different people. You can assign to groups of users or individual users, and really this is where the power comes in. Now I can go to the workflows page and show you guys exactly how we track all the tasks for every batch by room for the facility to make it really easy for everyone to really understand what's going on in your facility from a operations standpoint. So we can see actually there are some tasks that should have been done in this demo. So I'll go ahead and complete these tasks as if they had been done. And so this is another way to be working with tasks, working with operations in a very high level overview kind of view. And the reason these are past due is because we seed in sample batches, sample recipes. But again, it gives you a good sense of how the platform works, what kind of tools we've built for production management, for team management, and task management, and to try to make that whole process a lot more streamlined and a lot more fluid for you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, my name's Vince. Please do reach out to us if you're interested in these production tools. We'd be happy to hear from you.